Good evening and welcome to another episode of the NAACP Chicago Westside branch. I'm your host, Tara Levy, and this evening we have a special guest, Mr. Katori Sills. And tonight we'll be talking about steps moving towards healing. Awesome. Mr. Sills?
How's it going? I'm Katori Sills. I'm so happy to be here today. I work on the west side of Chicago through an organization called Breaking Grounds. I'm the D-House coordinator, and the aim is holistic change. So we have guys that come from different forms of brokenness, trauma, and we just walk alongside them through a holistic approach, faith-based approach. And I'm really passionate about this topic that we have today because I have walked through steps towards healing myself and understand what that looks like. So I'm really happy to be here. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome. And Katori is also an amazing poet. And tonight he'll be showing us this great poem called Can I Dream? So enjoy, you all.
Thank you. Can I dream? When growing up, my third grade teacher asked me, what do you aspire to be? After taking it for the second time, I probably told her a football player, someone who makes money, or someone on TV. But that picture came before reality took away my picture frame and gave me broken glass that resembled a chandelier that never made it off the store shelf. Truth of the matter was, life wasn't like Family Matters. Although we had many Carl Winslow's knock down our door, D-Tech suspecting black suspects of selling narcotics, cops were very familiar with what my duplex looked like, as it was a white faded brown with white chip paint that looked like desert cam on the nighttime. Yes, it was a war zone. We had a full house, but it wasn't quite like full house. I seen many people come and go to chase a high that never lasted longer than they hoped. Addicted to dope. But can I dream? Truthfully, I didn't have time to dream or a vision of future me. There was a war for my soul. Vision died in my mind and blew up like landmines all around me. I was fighting a battle I never signed up, nor was I ready for. But how can a young boy dream while living in a nightmare? And yes, it was similar to Elm Street. I seen many things on 5406 Carlton Street, apartment B. I grew up too soon. I never fell in love with cartoons. Although they tuned out the chaos that was in the room, us brothers fought like episodes of Dragon Ball Z. We were young, wild, and reckless, and living free. But can I dream? My society saw me a dream, but on the journey I never made it past the sun, and since he set eternity in my heart, the gravitational pull of grace sought me while I was in the dark. The light came and pursued me. He changed the direction of how I would run and gave me the gospel of peace. So now with a new perspective, I say this proudly. As I look at Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, I can only ponder what challenges he faced in the face of his dream as he spoke August 28th, 1963. What hardships I didn't allow him to see. Oh, the many things I wanted to suppress his dream. Despite our shortcomings and the hardships, we will all face ships that will hit icebergs like the Titanic to remind us of the cold world that we are living in. Despite how you were raised, adversity will do one or two things: cause pain or create change. But what will define you? Because I refuse to let my barriers bury me based on believing bad behavior breaks benefits of brokenness that made me a better man. I said I refuse to let my barriers bury me based on believing bad behavior breaks benefits of brokenness that made me a better man, based on the Father's plan. As the President addresses the State of the Union, I am still at a standstill because we are still divided by four-letter words: love, hate, or race, depending on how you see your well-being or state. Love, L-O-V-E. We don't know how to or who to model it from. Hate, H-A-T-E. We hate those that hate us, which creates a cycle of unforgiveness that births self-hate and hate of others. Race, R-A-C-E. We rather focus on the color than the condition of the human heart, where hate is rooted and is a cause of why we can't get along. So let's just call it what it is. There is still injustice in this world that we can't ignore as a people. We are free, but slaves of so many things. We have two eyes and still can't see that the problem is us. There's still evil in this world as in the days of old, but I'm still shouting out, we shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome. Dr. King, I am still celebrating your dream in the face of calamity, injustice, and pain. As a boy, I was a fighter, and as a man, I got a little smarter and started picking up my pen instead of my hands. Now I can hope, and now I can dream, because true love and hope gave me eyes to see. JC, your bloodshed was not in vain, for you are the hope of the world, and in you we will find change. President Obama said in his State of the Union speech some years ago, I believe in change because I believe in you, the American people. Well, I believe in change because I believe in love, hope, grace, all from above. Can we dream? Can we dream? Can we dream?
We're gonna take a moment. We're gonna take a moment just to like ingest that and really just like sit in it, because there was a lot of great things that you mentioned in that piece.
Thank you.
A lot of powerful messages. So let's take a minute to unpack. Like, what are some key things that you want the listeners, our audience, to get from that?
I think there's two things. An environment can alter the way you think about the rest of your life. And I think the other piece is that although there is adversity, there's powers much greater to overcome those adversities. And I think that's the paradox that we live in today, and I think a little bit of what we'll be talking about today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, our topic for this evening is steps towards healing. And what does that look like for the Black community? You mentioned trauma in your piece. I heard a lot of brokenness, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't get healing or reparations that we need to get past these traumatic incidents in our life, it's only going to be passed down from generation to the next, right? And so that just creates, it just amplifies our issues even more so, because now a whole family is experiencing this trauma.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, you know, as children, they get the heavy load of their parents' brokenness, their parents' trauma, and unbeknownst to their parents is only giving what they have. You can't lead somebody where you haven't gone, and you only can give somebody what you have. You can't take them to a farther level. So what we're seeing now within the inner city is a cycle of trauma, a cycle of forms of abuse or forms of brokenness, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that you have to take a person for where they're at, right? So what you said earlier, like, a person can't show you something they've never seen or something they've never experienced. And as an educator, we're taught that parents are doing the best that they can with what they can. So we can't like blame people, oh, well, they should have done this, they should have done that.
Exactly.
It's because you know another way. But for someone who's never experienced this, never been taught another way, you can't expect them to know.
Exactly right. And I think that's where we need to have grace for other people in different situations, because you have to hear the narrative. You have to listen to the story. We both come in with different experiences, and imagine me trying to tell someone to dream. The poem I was talking about, Can I Dream? The ideal is that his dream was taken from him before he had a fight, and that was my story. And the ideal is, okay, now that I know the tools that I have, how can I now pass that on to someone else and help others heal?
And while your piece is very unique, a lot of young Black boys out there share a lot of your experiences. And what was it that shaped you from becoming this boy who was troubled by a lot of demons in his life to overcoming them? Like, what help did you get, or what resources did you reach out to?
Resources. I think the number one resource, and I just have to be honest, like, was my encounter with the Lord Jesus at a young age, at 14. That really shaped and molded the process of continue to see that I was broken and I was in need of healing. But from there, that initial work that he began to do in my life, I began to get around other people that were willing to call out the things. See, when we have brokenness or when we have traumas, now we have coping mechanisms in which those things manifest. So they have to now be dealt with. It's a renewing of the mind. It's a transforming of the mind. It really has to do with the whole person. So when we talk about whole person, it's like, well, I'm just thinking a certain way that needs to be altered, oftentimes depending on the experiences I have been in.
Nice. I know before we got online, you mentioned this book that you wanted to share with our audience.
Yeah. I got the privilege of listening to Nadine Burke Harris. She's a phenomenal speaker. She's actually an MD. She's a doctor, and her approach. She's an immigrant from Jamaica, small Jamaica, and it's called The Deepest Well. And she writes from a perspective as a medical doctor who's trying to help children overcome trauma, so to speak. She wouldn't use it in that terms, but what she would say, it was called adverse child experiences. Many of us may have heard of it. It's called ACEs. And she came across this study that when kids get into fight or flight, their level of stress raises, and now they have this hormone that's kicking into gear with. It's like giving a small car diesel gas. It's too powerful. It's what it needs, but it's not what it needs. And what we have oftentimes when we're in environments of the inner city or environments of trauma, single family homes, the list goes on. There's actually a list of 10 questions that you can take to see how far you can scale on this ACEs test. But in the book, she really talks about what does it look like to begin to heal from trauma? What does it look like to take steps towards healing? First of all, like we're here today, like we have to acknowledge that we have been in a place where we have been overstressed. And, the old people say, man, stress will kill you. It's true, it will. Stress will kill you. And so in her book, she really breaks down the ideas of how can we, as even medical doctors or this lay people, regular people, how do we understand the traumas and the stressors in our lives, and how can we move towards eliminating those stresses so that we could begin to think critically and not have what's the word I'm looking for? Not have a coping mechanism that would be detrimental to ourselves.
I was about to speak on that. Like, I think especially in Black media, that's almost like notarized.
Yeah, or taboo.
Yeah, well, to be like maladaptive in your coping mechanisms. Like we use, the latest drug, or talk about how drunk we can get to solve our problems or to run away from our problems. But in the end, it's like it's still there, or maybe even like magnified because of those maladaptive ways of dealing with what we're going through. And I think, again, it starts with education. I know it's a cliche, but knowledge really is powerful.
Let's go.
If you don't know another way, if you don't know a way that's more positive and that's more constructive to your well-being,
you're not going to take it.
You're not going to take it. We as Black people cannot rely on Hennessy to fix our woes. We cannot rely on being turned up to fix our woes.
Yeah.
It's just adding more into the issues that we have as a people. And again, it starts with knowledge, and it starts with spreading that.
Yeah.
Spreading to those who are willing to listen.
There's an artist, there's a hip-hop artist, his name's Lecrae. He has a line, he says, when a rich man it goes down the lines of this. When a rich man needs a vacation, he takes one. When a poor man needs a vacation, he takes weed. And it's this idea of how we trying to find our peace, quote unquote.
That's good too. And
we have to call out the ways that we have misused stimulants or any form of things that alter our reality for the sake of the pain that we're experiencing.
Yeah, and that also leads me to a book I mentioned to you before.
Okay.
Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by another great, powerful Black woman, Dr. Joy Diggory-Lurie. She speaks about how dealing with traumatic issues in America is every day for us, but we don't know that it's trauma. We just become used to it. and how being used to things is hurting us, and how we're passing down this trauma from generation to generation. So again, it starts with being aware of your situation, being aware of like what's happening to you in order to alter that, in order to find healing and restoration. But we also want to hear from our viewers, those who are watching us tonight. Call in now, chime in with the conversation at 312-738-1060, and let us know like if you had any thoughts, if you had any comments or questions about our discussion tonight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Also, we're not going to just talk about all these illnesses and ailments that we have and not provide you with some type of resources. So, Heart Growth Behavioral Health Center, it's located on Chicago's Westside. They're looking to help out both young and older adults. You can call now to book an appointment as well as get a visitation at 773-413-1700, 773-413-1700. Also, Psychology Today. No, there's a lot of backslashes, but if you just go on Psychology Today, you can look up Black therapists in Chicago. And also, BetterHealth.com is a great tool to go to as well. So there are resources, there is help out there. We just have to be exposed to them. And when you have these resources, use them.
True.
So we have about 10 minutes left in our show. Again, the viewers, there's still time to call in, to chime in with the conversation. Mr. Katori Sills, did you have any final points that you want to get at before we close?
Yeah, I think into the process, like we're talking today, the process of steps towards healing is just awareness. I think unconsciously we live out of what we have been through, and some people, there's a lot of debates, nature, nurture. Truth of the matter is, like, there's both, and we have to address our environment. So I just encourage you to ask the three closest friends that you have in your life. Ask them, what would it look like to start answering questions of, hey, like, there's something that I need to begin to think through that you see that I don't see.
And let me pause you for a second. I think we have a caller, and awesome. I don't want to miss out on this caller.
Awesome.
Hello, thank you for calling in.
Hi, thank you for having me. How would you say is a good way to cope without weed or liquor, since it's so heavy in our culture today, in our media, in our everyday lives? What will be the coping mechanism for the millennials of today's age other than weed or liquor?
Great question.
Great question.
And as a Black millennial, I could answer that. At least some things that I use instead of like coping with weed or alcohol. Recently, I would say less than a year ago, I've got into meditation. So first I'm like, what am I going to do, like sitting in silence by myself? Like, what is that? But really just starting off slowly, like with maybe a moment of silence, a minute of you just sitting there and being with your thoughts, taking some deep breath in and deep breath out, and just like really unpacking, letting your body unwind with what's happening, as well as journaling. Journaling has helped me when I feel like really excited about something or really down. Like, journaling has definitely been a coping mechanism for me as well.
Yeah, those are good. I'm actually a journaler as well, but I would actually say, like, working out. I've been an athlete all my life. I grew up around those drugs, alcohol. I've been around it all my life, but I would say my outlet was going to the gym, working out. You can get the same burn, the same desires and burn off that frustration or whatever it may be, instead of indulging in the things that are so tangible. And I think that's the thing. Like, we have to be honest; they are tangible. So, what are some ways that we're going to begin to fight against the things that are right in front of us?
Right. And again, like, our coping mechanism should be adaptive, not maladaptive. And, like, add to the cure. Add to the cure of what our issue is. Thank you, caller, for calling in. We appreciate your question. There's still time to chime in at 312-738-1060. And Katori, were you finalizing your point, or did you want to speak more into what you were saying?
Yeah, no, I just think, ask 3 of your closest friends what would they
We have
look
another
like.
caller. I'm sorry, Katori. We're going to get to your
Good. I love this. I'm glad people are chiming in. Thank you so much. Like, this is awesome.
Hello, caller. What's happening?
Yes, great show as always. I have a question, but first I want to make a little comment. I'm a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran, and when I came back from Vietnam, I was strong, body, mind, the whole bit. But you know what? Last 20 years has been hard for me because I never thought that I'd be more afraid of the wonderful city that I live in than when I was in Vietnam. You could, it hurts me because the people that we vote in office, they don't seem to care. I don't care what color they are because I'm Hispanic, Mexican American, and African Americans fought hard to make the minority a majority on the 5th floor. And still nothing's done. So we got to do better, people. We got to start reading up on the people we vote for, because for the last 20 years, it seems that my wonderful city of Chicago has just gone straight downhill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, that's a lot. Like, Chicago, I would say a lot of the issues in Chicago happening today is from the issues that we are going about and not addressing. There are a lot of sick young people that are running our city, and these are our leaders. Whether we choose to elect them as our leaders or not, these young people are our future leaders. And if we don't get the treatment and the help for our youth now, the fate of our tomorrow is in their hands. So that goes back to getting help, providing resources to help those who are hurting.
Yeah, he mentioned, I think if I could hear correctly out of his question, it was like he had a fear about the city that he lived in. And I'm going to be completely honest, I love this city. I am not a native, but I love this city. And I do work on the west side of Chicago, and there's a lot of, just worry and fear that's involved with living there. But I think the only way to overcome fear is to begin to face it. What is that thing in this city that's bothersome? And begin to befriend those people. Begin to befriend those neighbors that live next to you. And when we start to have dialogues like we were talking about earlier, we start to see that there's actually a journey that person is fighting. There's a battle that person's fighting, that person is on. So that's something I would encourage you with. Keeping on.
Nice. Very nice. And any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, that's all. I think that's all. I think my what I was saying is just when it comes to this trauma, it comes to the situations in your life, ask somebody who's close to you the ways in which you may be detrimentally trying to cope with those things. Right.
There is a hope.
There is a hope.
The cure is out there.
Yes.
We have to remember to keep fighting. Keep fighting this fight and be positive.
For sure.
So we're going to end, speaking of positive, on a high note. It's not too late to celebrate Juneteenth. So what is Juneteenth? For those who don't know, really quick history lesson. So the emancipation of the last African slave was on June 19th, which was this past Tuesday. So it's a celebration of freedom and American holiday. This weekend is a 3-day event from June 22nd through June 24th in Garfield Park. From Madison to Hamilton and Central Park to Hamilton. There'll be a wonderful festival and parade today, tomorrow, and on Sunday.
Awesome.
So it's free to the public, free to all our Westsiders and those commuters. So now you know this is what's happening.
Will you be there?
I will be there.
Awesome.
You should try to come through.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to come through.
All right, you all. Thanks for tuning in another Friday.
Yes.
And have a wonderful, great, and productive rest of your weekend. Go in peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hey.
Hey, man. Hey, peace and love.